Depth on this one is set, and we're gonna run along the bearing, and that rides along the inside of this jig here. With routers, same way with our blade, same way with our chain mortiser, any cutting tool, you wanna push the tool the opposite direction that the blade is spinning. So we're gonna actually work the router in two different directions because one of our cuts is gonna be an interior cut and one is gonna be an exterior cut. And if you look at where the blade sits, interior, do you see what side of the blade I'm touching with the material? Exterior, it's the opposite. So if you think about the way that that spins, I have to compensate for that. So an exterior cut, and we're gonna use our little laminate trimmer, and we're just gonna put a bullnose on the whole thing at the very, very end. That'll be our last pass. We'll just run around, clean it all up, put a 1/4 inch round on every surface. So counterclockwise for exterior cuts. Interior cuts, we're gonna go clockwise. Really important. If you forget and you start cutting in the wrong direction, you're gonna know about it. And you're gonna know about it really quickly because we're gonna start to cut and it's gonna want to force the tool out of your hands, okay? Best thing to do is just slowly and with control, come outside of the workpiece. If it's freaked you out, shut the tool down, come and grab a hand from me, right? Saying that we're running against the bearing here, take a look at the actual material here. So I'm taking a 15 mil, like come take a look. Taking a 15 mil deep pass, that's an aggressive cut. That's a huge amount of material. If I try and take that off in one pass, you're gonna know about it. So we're using a couple of different semiotics to figure out whether or not we're cutting correctly. We're feeling it and we're also hearing it. So if it's cutting too heavy of a pass, you'll know. Make sure that it's actually turned off before you plug it in. The other thing is cord management. We get really focused on what we're doing and we forget that there's a big power cord chasing us. So either over your shoulder or just be conscious of where the cord is. Don't route through the cord. It also happens. And it's their second choice, okay? We do want to clamp this down when we cut. Do you mind? I think I've left my safety glasses over there somewhere. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so interior cut. Am I gonna cut clockwise or counterclockwise? Clockwise, beautiful, yep. So very similar to the saw, I want to have full control over the tool and have it seated on my jig before I fire it up. Don't fire this up and then kind of come in with a spinning blade, okay? So if I'm hanging onto this, throw the cord here, well outside of our sort of cutting surface, and I'm on to my router base. I'm gonna turn this on and then start to come in. That sounded fairly even. It didn't sound like the tool was under super heavy load. Come and take a look how much I've actually removed. So I didn't bottom out that bearing at all. And we can take this in slow passes. Because I'm going in opposition to the way that it moves, I have a fair bit of control. I'll show you what it sounds like when I'm cutting too much. Too much, right? And you know immediately, okay? So look at it's gonna tell you all about it. I've absolutely destroyed the inside of my piece. I've got big, huge wood chips that have come off. Okay, so we want to be measured about this. Take it in a couple of passes. I promise it's worth it. Okay, so now I've got to remove that. It'll sound bad. And just hang on to the router until it powers down. And then you can flip it over and put it down. Okay? You can see now I've got two problems. One is I've destroyed my piece because I used the router incorrectly. I'm not really worried about that. The bigger problem is the problem of a round bit. This is my patch.
Only there was a tool.
If only there was a tool for this. Fantastic. Yes. Hand tool work. So small hand tool work on site is going to have to happen. So if we think back to the demo that we saw earlier, when I came across the material and it blew out like crazy, which direction do I want to hold my chisel and start this hand tool work? Do I want to go this way or this way?
That way.
Yeah. So the wood fibers are all being held in this direction. If I put my chisel in here and I crack it with my mallet, I'm going to split all the way up. However, and I'm just going to grab my dead blow. If I start in this orientation and bring this, what I will do with my chisel is I'll actually flat side, I'll dip it into where I want to actually keep it flat and then hold that and rock it up into the piece that I'm cutting. So I'm gonna, pardon me?
Towards the side.
Yeah, I'm gonna rock it up into where I'm going, nice and tight against that line. And I'm gonna sever those wood fibers in this direction first. Then I can come in and do the same on this side. And I start to get that little square corner. So, and I'm just gonna walk this down. Yours will be a lot nicer and easier than mine is because I've freehanded this end because I wasn't up against the jig. And then we can sort of just start to bring this in and square out that corner. And we're just gonna bring that through. Does that at least idea sort of make some sense? Once we get to the very bottom, cleaning out the last little bits of this, I'm actually gonna flip my chisel over and utilize the wedge side and go sort of inside here and tap that out. And then I can clean it out really flat. If I have it straight, the wedge will actually force the chisel down into the material and it'll drive it in this direction. Flipping it over, I can keep it nice and flat. So the way that we use our chisel, the way we're utilizing that wedge can really help. And then we can bring in our material. We're pretty close to deadly flat there. So you give that a feel. Our patch is just a hair below the surface of our material. So if you're in the field and we're doing something like this, I would probably have this just a hair proud. I've got this is probably like a 64th under, but it's on purpose because glue has thickness. And I've done this on purpose so that with the glue, it should be dead flush. Another router that we're gonna use is into the bottom here. And we've got a couple of welders and ironworkers, correct? So we're gonna fit the knife plate, and the knife plate is a nice flat plate with a nice flat plate, and it's gonna go in there, and it's this lovely like 90-degree cut. We're gonna put this big heavy chamfer on the inside here. And why are we putting that big heavy chamfer on the inside?
Well, to accommodate
Yeah, to accommodate the bead, exactly. So where we want to end with this, because of the size of our slot and the size of our bit, I'm sort of full pass on both sides right away. So what we want to do for this one, and really important, any metal or anything like that, make sure we're pulling staples. You don't ever want to have metal on metal when we're cutting. Take it in a couple of passes, okay? So just right here, we can open this up and I can shallow up this pass. And I'm just gonna ride with the bearing along the inside surface and just in here, okay? Shallow up the pass, take a pass with it. No, bearing's on there, it's just little because it's a chamfer, okay? And then bring it out and bring it out where we wanna end. I don't wanna end here. You see how I can actually see the carbide is sticking above the router base and I've got space. My final pass, that's maxed out. So the carbide has to die into the router base. I cannot have a step, okay? So once that carbide dies into the router base, that's full depth, finish it off, and I'm doing an inside pass. So am I going clockwise or counterclockwise?
clockwise.
Clockwise. Perfect.